Hello, it's Simon Zutshi here, and in this video I'm talking about the housing market shortage. You can't help but escape this in the headlines. Everyone's talking about the fact we just don't have enough accommodation in the UK. So what does that mean for you and for your property investing? Well, my name is Simon Zutshi. I'm the author of Property Magic, the Amazon #1 property bestseller. I'm the founder of the Property Investors Network, which is the largest and longest running network in the UK for property investors. So the last 20 years, I've been helping people like you to become really successful investors much quicker than I did. It took me 8 years to replace my income and leave my corporate life, and many of our students doing it in less than a year. So it's really important to know what's happening in the property market. And right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. As we know, for the last couple of years, we've had this booming property market. It's been very much a seller's market where there are more buyers than there are sellers, which means people pay too much for property. However, everything's changed in 2023. Property prices are falling. We have a lot of landlords are selling up. And this means there's a lot of property on the market for sale, and also it's hard to get finance right now. It's harder to get mortgages because of the interest rate hikes that happened during 2022. So what this means is that there are lots of people who are unsure about the property market. There aren't as many buyers as there were maybe a year ago, but still lots of people need to sell, so property prices are still coming down. So how come there's this shortage of accommodation? Well, if you look at the government's figures, so the Conservative Party, the current government, they talk about the UK needing 300,000 homes each year. The reality is we're only building about 150,000 at the moment, and on average it's normally about 200,000 a year. Now, the Labour Party recently said in their party convention, they said that they want to commit, if they get into power, to building 1.5 million homes over the next 5 years. So actually it's the same figure as the Conservatives saying they think we need 300,000 new homes a year. So if we need 300,000 a year, but we're only building 150 or even 200, it means there's a shortage. So the fact that property prices are falling right now, I'm not concerned about. In fact, I think it's an amazing opportunity for those people who want to acquire more property right now. Would you rather pay at a lower price, or would you rather pay the higher prices we had for the last couple of years? Well, of course you want to pay a lower price. So as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you follow the 5 golden rules that I talk about in Property Magic, I'll share those in just a moment, it doesn't really matter what's happening short term to property prices, because the long term in the UK is property prices go up. Why is that? Well, we live on this island with a limited amount of accommodation and an increasing population. There's only a certain amount of space we have to build new properties. Now, the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, has been talking about wanting to change the planning process. They're talking about opening up some of the greenfield sites, which is normally the countryside, which until now have been protected. Now, they're saying obviously we should use brownfield sites, so sites that already have buildings on, we should convert those first. And they're talking about wanting to make the planning process much easier. And in theory, I think that's a great idea. But there are 2 fundamental problems. One thing is you can't just make the planning process easier, because there's already lots of things we can do as developers, as property investors, and if we're trying to do conversions of buildings into residential property, we can do that. But at the moment, the planning system is just massively clogged up. If you've tried to put a planning application into your local council, you'll know it takes an absolute age at the moment. And so what they need to do, they need to add extra resource into the planning departments, into the councils, to deal with all the applications coming through. So lots of developers who want to develop things, but it's taking an absolute age to do it. And I don't want to have a bit of a dig here, but unfortunately, I think a lot of councils are still feeling the effect of COVID, when people are going to work from home or people being off sick, etc. So they just don't have enough staff. So one of the best ways the Labour Party or the Conservatives could help this whole housing issue is by giving support to local council planning departments to make sure they are fully resourced to deal with all the planning applications coming in. I also think lightening some of the planning constraints might also help. But there's also another major problem, and not many people have mentioned this. One of the reasons we only build a couple of 100,000 brand new properties each year is because of the supply issue of skilled labour and also materials. So when Brexit came, many of the skilled foreign workers who worked in construction went back to Eastern Europe or wherever they happened to be from, worrying about what's going to happen at Brexit. Now, it's interesting, the government didn't want people to leave. They said, we're not going to kick people out. If you've got a job, really happy to stay here. But I guess when uncertainty comes, people worry, they panic, and a lot of people went back to Eastern Europe. And now it's really difficult for them to get back into the UK because we're no longer in Europe. So this has caused a real problem. And when someone like the Labour Party says, we're going to build 1.5 million homes in the next 5 years, I think, well, that's a great ambition, but how are you actually going to do that? Where are you going to get the skilled labour? Where are you going to get the materials from? We saw an absolute boom during 2020 and 21 in building because construction wasn't stopped during lockdown. You could still actually do that. But because of supply chain issues, the cost of materials went up massively. Now, we're seeing materials slightly to come down in price. That's good. And actually, there is labour available at the moment to do building works. That's good for us as property investors and property developers. But I really think anyone, any government, Labour or Conservative, is going to have a real problem hitting that target of 300,000 properties per year, unless there's also major investment into training. I remember there used to be the YTS, Youth Training Scheme, where people used to do apprenticeships, they used to train people in the trades and give people a profession. I don't know how much of that happens these days, but the problem is we just don't have enough skilled workers, so we can't, at the moment, build those 300,000 properties a year, which would be 1.5 million in 5 years' time. So it might be a great thing that Keir Starmer's talking about, but how realistic is it actually going to happen? So what does this mean for you and for your property investing? Well, the reality is there is not enough accommodation. Last week there was also a report from Rightmove that was saying that the average rents had gone up something like about 10% since last year. So rents have gone up, and actually they were saying there's something like 25 inquiries to every property that's on the market on average. So if you have a good property in reasonable condition, and by the way, you should have good quality accommodation, reasonable condition in a good area, you should easily be renting that property out, and you'll get a lot more rent than you maybe got last year. So what this means is those of us who are still in the game, or those people who are getting into the game and becoming a new property investor, it's a huge opportunity. There's massive demand for accommodation. Rent's quite high right now, and you can actually pay less for a property this year than you would have bought last year. Now, a lot of people say, well, okay, if property prices are falling because lots of landlords are selling up and, there's worry about property market crash and all these kind of things, should we buy now or should we wait? Should we wait? Because maybe in 12 months' time, property prices might have come down, and if we buy something now that could be worth less in 6 or 12 months, have we lost money? Well, no, you haven't lost any money unless you have to sell that property. And if you follow the 5 golden rules I talk about in Property Magic, actually, which are, first of all, you buy from motivated sellers. And by the way, there are lots more motivated sellers. A lot of people need to sell their property, but there aren't just enough buyers at the moment. Rule number 2, we buy in an area with strong rental demand. I've just said there's really good rental demand in most parts of the UK. Number 3, we must make positive cash flow. What that means is at the end of each month, we take the rent, less all the bills, the mortgage, the insurance, the maintenance, the management, there must be profit left over. If there's not profit left over, don't buy that property. It's not a good deal. Rule number 4 is we're buying for long term. Yes, you can make money short term in property, but the real true generational wealth is by holding property long term. And then rule number 5 is have a little bit of a cash buffer put aside to cover the unexpected expenses which might not normally be covered. So if you follow the 5 golden rules, in particular number 2, 3 and 4, so you buy in an area of strong rental demand, you buy for cash flow, and you're holding long term, it doesn't matter what happens short term. So if you wait and try and buy something cheaper later on, or in theory that's good, but the problem is we don't know when the market's going to hit the bottom. You see, some people say, well, let's wait till the property market hits the bottom, then we're going to buy. Now, in theory, that's a great idea, but if you don't know when it's going to be, more likely than not, it's going to hit the bottom and they start to go up before you realise it's hit the bottom. And what that means is that any seller who believes the prices are going up, it means they're going to hold on with the hope that someone's going to come along and pay more for that property. So they're not going to be as flexible. Whereas right now, where property prices are falling, there's a lot more scope for us to negotiate. And we can have flexibility on the price we pay or the terms we pay, which means we can do things like vendor finance or purchase lease options. So there's a lot more choice available for us in a falling property market that we have right now. And yet, there are many investors who are nervous, they don't know what to do, and they're waiting by the sidelines to see what happens. So while they're waiting to see what happens, there's an incredible opportunity for you to get out there, as long as you know what you're doing, to find some incredibly good deals and start renting those out to meet this demand that's in the market. So I guess my message is this is a great time to invest in property if you know what you're doing. So be careful when listening to the press and the media. It's important to find out what's going on, but don't be influenced by people who really don't know what they're talking about. So if you liked this video, I'd encourage you to like the video, put a comment below, make sure you subscribe, and also make sure that you hit the bell icon, because some of my videos like this one are timely talking about what's happening in the news right now. And if you watch it 6 months later, it's not so relevant. So you really want to watch these when they first come out. That's why you want to subscribe and also hit the bell icon. I'm also going to be doing some live training all about what's happening in the market right now, and specifically what are the opportunities, how do you find these great deals, what are the opportunities for you right now, what can you do, how can you get a competitive advantage over other investors. So click on the link below and you'll be able to come and join this training to learn more about that from me. As ever, I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I'll see you in the next video. Hey, it's Simon here. I do hope you've just enjoyed that video on YouTube. I hope you took lots of notes, and more importantly, you're going to take action. And what I'd encourage you to do is click on the link in the description below the video. I've got some live online training that's very relevant to the video you've just watched. Come and register for that training. Join me live online, and you can actually get your questions answered live as part of that training. So take the opportunity to come and join me live online. Click on the link below and secure your spot before you miss the date. Take action right now. As ever, I encourage you to invest in knowledge, invest with skill. Enjoy the next video.